Thank you all for coming. Appreciate you making it to the farthest breakout room away from the general session. So obviously, like I said, it means at least hopefully you want to be here and you didn't just kind of stumble on this room by mistake. I'm Phil Robinson. I'm in charge of business development at a company called Zia Consulting. We're an Alfresco system integrator, reseller, partner. We'll talk a little bit more about our company further in, but by way of background, I've been at Zia for about 3 years. Prior to that, I spent 5 years at Alfresco. I ran the sales team for a while and also channels, so understand a little bit of sort of the evolution of Alfresco and how we've gotten to where we are today. Really evolving what is a great, in our mind, ECM platform into business solutions. And I know there's been a lot of talk about that the last couple days. And that's really what today's about. If you're here for a demo or a technical session of any type, I would encourage you to walk that way. Yeah. I am not our technical guy. We had 3 technical tracks today, the last couple days, but this is not one of them. So I'm going to talk about customers that we've worked with, and our term is solution accelerators, but a lot of the terms that the folks, everyone from Doug and Thomas DeMeo through Gardner, through John Newton have been talking about the last couple days in terms of building these solutions, again, to solve business needs. So what are the issues that we're trying to address here? It was great for me over the last couple of days to attend some of these sessions. I had to put these together a while ago, and there's always the fear that, oh, here's the key issues everyone's talking about, and then John or again the Gardner folks stand up and say, those are not the issues people are talking about. But I think they are. So did anyone attend the Gardner Mark session yesterday? Yeah, some of you. He talked about easy content management. He talked about ease of use. He talked about configurable systems as opposed to customizable systems. We came up with a term, we call it ECM Avoidance, right? This is the people in your organization doing anything they can to not have to use the ECM systems that you want to, right? So then instead they're storing stuff, on their own computers, right? They're just keeping documents in email. They're using, again, file sync and share systems. So that's ECM avoidance for us, again, as opposed to an easy ECM system. And then the second, I think probably most of you attended John Newton's session. Everyone? Yeah, just nod. We'll make you raise your hand. So John talked about old and fat, and he wasn't talking about himself. And I've known John for 9 years now, so I can make a joke like that, hopefully. The old and fat systems, right? The declining productivity of workers, and in the document or ECM space, it's about the productivity of document processing, and there are various risks associated with that, but one of them clearly is cost, right? And so John talked about the competitive advantage that you can gain and things like that, but really that the ROI associated with the cost of document processing and automating that is really one of the most significant opportunities out there. And he called it digital operational excellence is what I wrote down. So where is it? Well, today, we think it's everywhere, right? But today's focus is going to be this concept we call our secure back office. This is your corporate functions. We call them corporate critical documents, right? So across corporate legal, across human resources, across corporate finance, right, from procurement to AP to payroll. One of the most interesting things for us, and we'll talk about this with one of our case studies, is in a lot of cases these interrelate, right? So your HR people are talking to your legal people, and then they're kicking off something with payroll. We can throw IT in here, we can throw security, we can throw different folks like that. But it's really about these corporate documents. Doesn't mean we don't also work with marketing documents and sales documents, but this focus and the repeatability of this. And I was just talking to someone this morning, one of the customers who presented yesterday, and he was saying that, we're unique and we're not, right? And so everyone in this room is unique in terms of your needs, and we think there's this repeatable set of solution components that we can bring to bear, particularly across, again, these corporate functions. So wanted to start, I guess, as we jump into this with a case study. This is one of the, I'm trying to see who's in the room here. This is one of the largest corporate legal departments in the world. It's a very large technology search firm that has 6 letters, that's based, 6 letters, based down in the South Bay here. So believe it or not, this being a technology firm, they had a big problem with legal documents. And this is a company that acquires another company every week, that sues a company every week, that gets sued by a company every week. And they had their documents in corporate file shares. They had documents getting emailed around the world. And again, right, huge security concerns with that, obviously, but also productivity, right? It was just too expensive. They could not hire people fast enough to process through the cases they needed to do. They tried to fix it themselves twice. They tried to build their own CMS. And then they also tried a couple of off-the-shelf vendors. Again, and we'll talk about this theme all the way through. For me, Alfresco has always been about, again, you can get what you want. You might have to build some, right, or configure some, or put some together, but it is the most open platform, it is the most flexible platform, it is the most integratable platform out there. Again, what I said to my sales team when I ran sales at Alfresco is you just need to find people with an imagination, people who can visualize, this is what I want, and Alfresco, more than anyone else, can deliver that. So what did we deliver for them? It was a role-based system. You've heard a lot of talk the last couple of days about role-based and the importance of that, the case management type methodology. John Newton said everything is a case. That's kind of how we see it, and certainly in this, right, in the legal world, people talk about matter management. And so we delivered to them at the time, built on an Alfresco Workdesk, if any of you have seen that. This role-based view, so the paralegals could see what they wanted versus the lawyers and people like that. Interestingly for them, being in a company that might be called Google, they used Outlook and they used Office tools, right? Which, again, you might expect in a corporate legal world. But so they wanted full email and Office integration, workflow automation. Again, the themes that you heard yesterday, giving them the ability to work with the tools that they work with every day, right? Not trying to change behavior, but instead configure the system to work. So results, they have over 1,800 people in their corporate legal department using it today around the world. Millions and millions and tens of millions of documents and files moved into Alfresco. So that's one. Second one I wanted to start with is, and this is again just to give you a flavor of the types of things we do with Alfresco and you can do with Alfresco, whether you do them with us or not. One of the things we say is we're not trying to sell people on Zia, right? If we can help you, great. But if not, we'd love to see Alfresco grow and the ecosystem grow. So just trying to give you again an idea of some of the things you can do with Alfresco. So this is the city of Chattanooga. Also interesting because we're just going into a completely different world, right? From a cutting edge technology into city and county government. So this is the city of Chattanooga, and they have lots and lots of problems with document processing. Where we started was in procurement and wanting to automate and digitize what was a completely paper-based system at the time. So they had people, literally typing up documents, printing them out, passing them around. All of their documents were stored within the departments. And so this is where what I was talking about, cross-departmental solutions. What they really wanted to do more than anything else was say, when we kick off again, an HR hiring decision. That needs to then pass through to payroll. It needs to pass through to IT. It needs to pass through to the people who print the security badges. And so, again, a lot of paper still coming into them. So we'll talk a little bit today about capture or intelligent capture. Some of you might know Kofax or other legacy vendors. And some of you may know Effisoft, which is the technology that we use with Alfresco. It's a modern open source alternative to Kofax. So we use that, embedded that within their contract system, as well as invoicing at the same time. The other thing that's interesting that we'll talk a little bit about today is integration, right? So these, the last thing we want to do is create more silos. Again, one of the significant cost savings available to companies is by automating the integration. We talked to Bank of the West out here, and they literally were printing documents out of Documentum so someone could type them into and scan them into their loan origination system. So, you can imagine the people costs involved in that. Okay, so who are we, just quickly? So Zia is a company that started about 12 years ago now. For the first 7 years, we did all Documentum work. So that's the pedigree of the people. Some people have been doing Documentum work for 20 years. 5 years ago, pulled the plug, made the switch. All of our business is based on Alfresco now. We've done over 100 Alfresco projects in the last 3 years. Been partner there, as you can see, a couple times, as well as some other awards. Most recently, so one of the things we're really focused on is just our customer success, and part of the way you evidence that is through the growth, of us and Alfresco within those companies. So we've sold more site-wide licenses, enterprise-wide licenses, and things like that than anyone. So why would you come to us as opposed to doing it yourself or maybe another partner? We think we can help you reduce the risk. So I know that John was talking about failures to get projects done on time, on budget, or even completed at all, within scope. So we think we help reduce that risk. We call it our solution accelerators. That's what really we're going to talk about today. These bundles of things that we can bring into a project that are really based on all the work we've done. So we have about 40 people working on Alfresco full time. Thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of intellectual property that we bring into other projects, the methodologies that we have for delivery, and then some of these integrations that I'm talking about. We've done Oracle and SAP, and we've done Salesforce, and we've done a lot of the systems that you might be using. And then the other piece of it is the actual solution accelerators themselves that we bundled. So we started calling it, and not to pat ourselves on the back, Easy ECM about 2 years ago. Gartner's adopted that. Alfresco's talking about simple and smart, things like that. But again, this idea that you're giving people the ability to continue to work with the systems they're used to working in, a very simplified, let the technology work for you. So whether it's document management or that carries through to records management. In-process capture for us. So this is taking Effisoft and actually embedding that into Alfresco. So for those who don't know, Effisoft has web services that allow you to embed it within another technology. So the way we do that is you can bring documents into Alfresco as a content hub, whether they're scanned in, emailed in, however you get them in there, and actually apply capture within that process. So you don't have to have people going out to different systems. The mailroom automation days of the past are gone. This term, enterprise information management, I'll talk a little bit more about this. I know John said he doesn't like that term. Please come up with another term. So, we can all work on that together if we have some time at the end here. And then for those who work in a SharePoint world, which we know typically is 50% of the audience, is going to be using SharePoint in one form or another. And we know there's issues there because people ask us about that every day. whatever, I think imitation is the most sincere form of flattery, something like that. So for those who know open text solution with that, it's called AGA, Application Governance and Archiving. So we're going to call it IGA, which is Information Governance and Archiving. But that is, and again, we'll come back to this, the ability to work in SharePoint as a tool, just like Office is a tool and email is a tool, and use Alfresco as your information governance system. All right, and then finally, I think this is the last slide on us. The service offerings we have to get you there. So migration is part of 100% of the projects we do. Everybody has content they're bringing in, right? Nobody says, I'm starting this brand new company and I have nothing, right? I have no documents. Everything's, all we have is on this napkin and we're not going to worry about it, whatever. So our migration methodology, again, over 100 migration projects into Alfresco from anything you could think of. Is what we call active migrate. RM now, RM seems to be, and for those who've seen it since 2.1 was released last October by Alfresco, growing number of people saying, hey, this looks like it might be the right fit for us. So we actually developed with Alfresco the new RM training. It's now on 2.2. We're the only partner in the world actually doing any Alfresco training right now. So it's RM training, and then the RM Now offering is 2 days of training and a 1-day kickstart assessment to sort of identify what you need to do, whether you work with us or not. So that's available to anyone. And then ICE is our initial consulting engagements. Again, just fixed price, jumpstart packages. I think they start at $6K or something like that. Again, for those who want to do it themselves but just need a little bit of help. And then our partnerships, we'll talk about this again a little bit more as we go through, but we do work a lot with Effisoft. We developed their training, we co-wrote the book with them, and we're their largest partner as well. All right, so enough about us. ECM Avoidance. We've talked about different ways to sort of express this, but really what we're focused on in solving this particular problem with the back office is matching the needs of the enterprise with the wants of the users. So the users are saying, I want Dropbox, I want something easy, I want to just be able to email documents. Why are you making me log into a system and then log into another system? Why can't I have this on my device, right? I just got a new iPhone 6. Why can't I use it, right? Come on, people. Why can't I find my stuff, right? Why is search so hard? Why are you telling me I have to tag everything, to be able to find it? So that's what users want. And the business obviously is saying yes, but our responsibility, to our shareholders is we need to manage this. We need to keep it secure. Every day you could probably find somewhere in a paper around the world some data breach, some release of documents that aren't supposed to be out there. Particularly, again, when you're talking about HR, corporate finance, corporate legal, these corporate functions, these are the documents that people are most concerned about getting out there. And so if you can put those two together, into a system that meets the needs of both, that's where you get this lower cost productivity, and still compliant and help you grow. So that's our focus. So then how do you build one? And again, this is where it always gets a little bit interesting when we're talking to prospects and customers, is they say, well, show me the system, right? Show me the technology. Give me a demo of it, right? And anyone who's ever seen just a straight demo of Alfresco, you're saying, all right, well, I'm not sure that really fits with what I'm looking to do right now. Again, the last couple days has been great for me listening to John and to Thomas and to the Gardner folks talking about this idea of building these systems, right? And these configurable apps. The Gardner guys talked about, finding this approach where it's halfway there for you, a portfolio of applications, a portfolio of solutions. John talked about quick application composition. we've been talking about this as mass customization, which is, again, trying to give you the flexibility of Alfresco, this open platform, with these pre-configured, almost plugins, right, that you can say, okay, here's how I'm going to build my system, right? So it's not completely, it's not off the shelf, right, with the concerns people have, right? If you were happy with something that was on the shelf, you would go buy it, right? I mean, there's a reason you're here. But, right, you don't want to have to customize everything. So the other way to look at it is, a Chinese food restaurant, right, where the saying has always been, right, there's only 7 ingredients, right, and then yet there's a list, 4 pages long of all the different dishes you can get. So, and so for us, in the toolkit, the ingredients we have to address this ECM avoidance are the ability to collaborate simply, both internally and externally. Again, this is going to address, we'll talk about the Dropbox problem. Automation, right? So taking that out of people's hands and letting the system do that in terms of whether it's moving tasks through the process, the workflow, reminders, things like that. Again, using the tools that you want to use, whether it's your email system, Office, SharePoint. We talked, again, a lot about that even in the keynote yesterday. How do you simplify information governance, and then how do you work anywhere? And again, if we look at sort of use cases here, corporate legal, employee records, right, just HR document management, contracts management. So just want to highlight a few of these because we don't have a ton of time today. One is, how do we solve the Dropbox problem, right? This is probably the number one concern that people have. Any of you who's been to AIM events, you know that this is something that's been highlighted. John Mancini, the head of AIM, tells stories about people opening up their Dropbox account. He's got access to all of their corporate records, things. I don't know if it's true or not, but it certainly could be. And so how do you do that, right? And again, it's about simple collaboration internally and externally. And so some of the tools you saw yesterday that we're actually leveraging today, certainly the email integration, whether it's Outlook or Google Docs, or Gmail, those are things that address it, right? Simple collaboration that doesn't require you, again, to go into different systems. And then the other with the external is really the ability to use Cloud Sync. I mean, that for us is the Dropbox killer because it's basically providing you all of that functionality while still retaining your documents securely within Alfresco. So anyone who wants to see a demo of that, again, we don't have time. I know they showed some of it yesterday, but it really, really is great. It really does work, and we have people using that today. So then, again, this term John doesn't like, enterprise information management. How do you solve this problem of content everywhere? It's not as simple as saying, well, everybody should just get everything into Alfresco, and they should do that today, overnight, right? Everything's there. And so we work with a number of tools, and one in particular we're sort of highlighting is a company called Simflowfi. A couple of ex-Alfresco folks started it. And it's this, it is still an Alfresco-centric world, but it's the ability to pull things in and pull things in over time. And so Mark Lugert, if any of you know him, he and I were talking, and he said, we're looking to embrace the chaos, right? We're looking to as an opportunity here. And so same way people are talking about solving big data, he's talking about solving big content with this idea of a virtual repository. Again, Alfresco-centered world for us, for him maybe a little bit less so, but the ability to pull in information from all these different places, even if you're going to leave that information there into this centralized virtual repository. The other term I use with him is, it's almost like an ESB for users. You're pulling in and connecting to all these different systems. So they're not the only ones out there doing it. We think they're the best, and particularly in the Alfresco world. And so I'm not sure if anyone's here. One of the cases we presented yesterday, an insurance company, we're working with them there. And then I promised we'd talk about the Sharepoint problem. Again, as you go out into the world, what we hear, at least half the time is, look, we have people who are locked into SharePoint. We'd like to get out of it or not, right? But it's there. And so, this has been something that we as Alfresco, we as Zia have been working on for years, and I feel like finally we're there. And so we're partnering with a company called C-Unity. They are the ones who wrote the OpenText and maintain the OpenText connector for SharePoint. If any of you, that's the AGA one. And we're collaborating on a SharePoint connector for Alfresco. Again, not the only technology out there to do it, but certainly we think way, way ahead of everybody else in terms of enterprise capabilities. So your ability to use SharePoint just as a front-end collaboration tool and have Alfresco really manage everything. So it's, SharePoint is basically, goes back to a portal type function. And then the second would be, even if you're saying, look, SharePoint is our ECM system. That's what we use for collaboration. That's what we use for document management. All we want is Alfresco for RM. And this is, again, what we're going to call IGA instead of AGA, but using this connector there. So anyone who's interested, again, learning more, let me know. I'm happy to share that. But I think I'm more excited about this than anything right now, just because it's been such an issue. Again, going back 7, 8, 9 years now. Okay, and then the compliance side itself. We just did a whole webinar on this if people want to learn more. But the idea here is easy RM, right? It's don't. Everyone's a records manager by not making them a records manager, by automating that system, by having file plans kicked off at the time that a document or a case is initiated, being able to declare records in place, and most of all, automating that process. So some of the things we show, for example, right, when a document's published, when it's converted to PDF, whatever the case may be in the case, when an employee is hired, right, that whatever that moment in time is, things are declared as records and passed over. So much, much easier. We sold no records management prior to 2.1, and now it's in about half of our conversations that we're having these days. So seems to finally be there. All right. So similarly, right, so that's the adoption side of things, and I know I went through that quickly, and again, it feels like you're sort of, well, there's this and this and this and this. Similarly, on the document processing side, it's about pulling together these solutions using components, using modules, plugging them in a way that solves problems. The great thing about the document processing side, as John was pointing out last night, these are relatively easy to sell to people internally, for us to sell, but then for you guys to sell internally. I like to talk about them as self-funded solutions, because the idea that, look, we can show you how within 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, you can already pay for your system by addressing the costs associated with document processing. We talk about if you have more than 5 people doing any manual process, taking the cost of Alfresco and FSoft combined, because you're going to look at a capture tool in almost every case here, will pay for itself in less than 9 months. Productivity increases. We have a case study that's coming out with a mortgage bank that their quote is, we got a 700% productivity increase. I don't actually know what that even means, but 700% productivity increase by implementing this solution. And so again, it's anywhere you have people working with paper, there's this opportunity. There's also the opportunity, again, to use technology as a competitive advantage, to go after new sources of revenue, things like that. So again, how do you build one? Same thing. It's this mass customization model. It's these toolkits. In this case, again, a case-based UI, the in-process capture I talked about. And again, in this case, you're going to see in almost every situation pretty strong needs for enterprise integration. So ERP systems, HR systems, or HCM systems, things like that. So the paper problem, I've talked about FSoft, I think, a fair bit already. But it is both the ability to digitize old paper records. We have someone who had a $5 million ROI by taking 100 years of paper records and digitizing them and storing them in Alfresco RM. Effisoft will classify the documents, extract the information, and deliver it to whatever system you need. And again, what's exciting for us is this Effisoft Inside model with in-process capture. And so literally, however you want and have documents coming into your organization, they can be automatically classified and the information extracted. So enterprise integration, again, whether it is your big systems or not. One of the interesting things is, we had a conversation with somebody at ILTA, which is a legal technology conference, about a month ago, and he said, well, we're using this system, can you integrate Alfresco with it? And I said, yeah, we can. He's like, how do you know? I haven't even told you what the system is. I said, I know, but we've done 100 of these, right? And we work with, I'd never heard of Pronto ERP system, right? And we have a customer, BSA Limited in Australia, who's integrating with Pronto from Alfresco. You can do it. And so, the methodology we use, we're calling any integrate. It is the ability to get into and work with virtually any system you have, whether it's directly or through an ESB. We love MuleSoft, and we know that lots and lots of people have Oracle ESB or others. So one last case study, City and County of Denver. We're out of Boulder, Colorado, so this is near and dear to our heart, although most of our business is in California and New York and DC and other places. But again, a contracts management system. They were, again, completely manual. Required a wet signature, very, very expensive. Where's my contracts, right? People go on vacation. Now completely automated all the way through electronic signature. We actually created an electronic signature plugin for Alfresco that for those people who say, I love DocuSign or CoSign and I can't use them because they're cloud-based, this is retained within your repository, so we call it zSign. They have more than half the people working with Alfresco work on Alfresco through PeopleSoft. Don't ever touch Alfresco. And then they wanted some RM and reporting as well. Okay, so I have like a minute left. Where do you go? I mentioned our service offerings. Happy to talk more. We're downstairs for the rest of today. We do have a new white paper that's out on Active Migrate that goes through the methodology so that if you want to and you are doing this yourself, it will give you some steps. It's a fairly technical document from a methodology perspective. Not light reading, about 12 pages, I think, but certainly worth checking out. You can find it on our webpage, or we have lots and lots of other resources.